summer's here and 4th of July weekend is this weekend. So I kind of wanted to show you how we do coolers on the homestead. So nowadays you can buy those $200 or $300 coolers and put all your stuff in there. It keeps it nice and cold. You can buy regular ice. It makes the ice last a lot longer, but that's not how I do it. Basically, I take these cheap coolers. I learned this from the Boss of the Swamp on YouTube. Great videos he's got there, so check them out. But basically, I take a cheap old cooler. This is a Rubbermaid cooler here, and I line this all with bubble foil insulation. It really makes this a super cooler, basically. It's just like one of those big expensive coolers that you can buy now. A lot of good insulation in there. It makes that ice last a lot longer. The other thing that I do that's very important is we take and I make my own ice blocks, and I use those square juice containers. We drink the juice and then I save those, clean them out, and then I use salt water. Salt water is much colder, lasts a lot longer, and I really think that it provides a better product because number one, we're not taking and putting in all our chicken and our beef and all that and vegetables all in the same cooler. All that ice melts and all that juice is flowing around. It's pretty gross if you ask me. So I really like just to reuse and save some money here on the homestead. So it's a great way. Cheap cooler, reusable ice blocks. The other nice thing about those ice blocks is once I'm done with them, I throw them back in the freezer. They refreeze in there. And then when we lose power for a night or a day or whatever, that cooler, that freezer stays colder because of those ice blocks in there. And they are salt ice blocks. And I'm not a scientist. I don't know if they are colder, but they sure do seem colder. And so we'll do a little experiment, and I'll show you just what I mean by that. So let's go on. Let's check it out. Okay, so what I got here is, I like to use these square juice bottles, and after they're all emptied, I fill them up. But what I'm going to do for an experiment here is, this one is the salt mixture one that I normally use, and I have a bunch of these that we normally use. This has quarter cup of salt mixed with water, and then frozen. This one I made is just water, so no salt in there. So what I'm going to do is I got two round steaks here, deer round steaks. We're going to get these put in here, and we're going to cover them up with these guys on either side here. And I'm going to separate them. And then we're going to wrap them with some bubble foil just to get it isolated from each other, so that we can get these cooling separately. And then I'll come back in a few hours, probably 3, 4, 5 hours, and we're going to check these and see how well they're frozen and which one stays colder and which one stays cooler. So let's get this going. So basically it's pretty simple. I like to use these square type juice bottles because they fit nicely in the cooler and they're easy to stack and use. I use regular table salt and a quarter cup of table salt. I like to leave the water down a little bit to allow for expansion, and put a quarter cup of table salt in there. Once you get that in there, mix it all up, and ta-da, there's your salt water bottle done. So it's been about 2.5, 3 hours since I put that stuff in the cooler. So I'm gonna go down here. I had it placed underneath the shade tree, and we're gonna check it out. So let's go down and look at it. So let's take a look. Here we are with a cooler here. We're going to open her up. Open this thing back. So what we got here is, this one here is the water side, and there's the steak. So pretty soft. And over here is the saltwater side. Pretty cool, isn't it? So I'm not a scientist at all, but I can tell you that this saltwater mixture has actually frozen this stiff. So this is still nice and soft. So And that's after 2.5, almost 3 hours just sitting in this cooler. This one underneath, just the ice, typical water, frozen, and this one under salt. So definitely a difference there. So you see there, basically, you know, a cheap $20 Rubbermaid cooler with some bubble foil wrap in there, and some saltwater ice blocks in there. We froze some steak within a couple of hours. So that's just amazing to me. And the best part about it is it's all reusable, right? The ice box, when we're done with those, I'll throw them back in the freezer. We'll freeze them for the next time. And if we ever have power go out, actually that helps keep that whole freezer colder longer. So our food that's in there lasts a lot longer as well. So it's great all the way around. Plus, number one, you know, a Rubbermaid cooler with, you know, some bubble foil wrap. A roll of that bubble foil wrap is inexpensive. And you can do 500 coolers with a roll of it. But you know, instead of spending all that money on one of those fancy coolers, I'm getting out of it for 20 bucks and under. So great way to save some money on the homestead. It's a great way to keep your stuff cold. So until next time, we'll see you later.